Herzlich willkommen, Sianamgela, and welcome to the Bundesliga Connection with Chris Harrington on the SL Podcast in partnership with DW Berlin.
It's time for the latest from Germany's domestic football league, the Bundesliga, and more. For that, we are joined by Chris Harrington from our partner station Deutsche Welle in Berlin, Germany. Chris, the international break is upon us and the German men's team suffered their first defeat under new coach Hansi Flick. What does this mean for Germany with the World Cup fast approaching?
Yeah, of course. It means the clock is ticking for Hansi Flick to get it right. After their first defeat, it was to Hungary. He basically said time for experimentation is over. He tried to put an attacking midfielder at right back, and it just didn't work out. And I think the honeymoon is somewhat over. When he took over after Joachim Löw, they got off to a ridiculous start in World Cup qualifiers. They destroyed that competition. If you look at the score lines there, they only conceded 2 goals, scored over 20. It was kind of ridiculous. But then comes the Nations League, and then there were too many draws since the start of 2022, this calendar year. And with the World Cup, obviously what's in the back of the minds of German football fans is the ejection from the 2018 World Cup out of the group stage. These were the World Cup holders coming into that major tournament, and Germany didn't bow too well. And Hansi Flick has a lot of expectations behind him. We can't forget, he did lead Bayern Munich to 6 trophies in one season, a ridiculous feat, seldom accomplished by any club. So in terms of Germany, they have to get it right. And I think the honeymoon is over. It's unfortunate that certain things are unavoidable, like COVID. COVID, bit Manuel Neuer, their number one goalkeeper, as well as Leon Goretzka and other things. I think the timing of the World Cup is going to be a big question mark in terms of the core Bayern players, which are also German national team players, namely Joshua Kimmich and company. Will their legs stand up? There are a lot of things at play here, and it'll be quite interesting to see what happens when Germany kick off their World Cup November 23rd against Japan, and then Spain follows. There is a bit of an incentive. The German players did get a boost if they indeed win the World Cup. They got a boost. The last prize money was 350,000 euros. It's been increased to 400,000 euros. I don't know if that'll make much of a difference because I think the competition will be fierce. And in terms of the Nations League, Germany did not impress. They actually underperformed. A lot of draws, and then they got booted out of competing in the Final Four of that competition. So there's not much time before the most important tournament in international football commences, and that is the World Cup in Qatar. I'm sure Hansi Flick is going to try to get it right.
Okay, Chris, getting back to the Bundesliga here, Bayern Munich currently sit 5th in the standings without a win in 4 matches.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you look at the way Bayern started the season. 3 wins, 15 goals, only conceded 1, but then they just hit a rut. The 3 draws with the exclamation point, their little baby brothers out of Bavaria, Augsburg, to give them their first defeat of the season. Ranked 5th, 5 points behind, the top Union Berlin club. Obviously, 1 win won't make a difference. They need to accomplish more than that. Friday night, they kick off against Bayern Leverkusen. Now, on paper, Bayern should pick up 3 points, but this one is a question of who is at a lower low. Bayern Leverkusen actually have a bit of momentum. They haven't lost in their last 3 matches, and they picked up a crucial win in the Champions League. Leverkusen's best against Bayern was a draw. When you look at the head-to-head, they have a handful of losses. But I did hear something from a former Bayern player who said something on TV, Philipp Lahm. He assessed Bayern and how they look on the pitch, and his assessment was, it doesn't look like everyone knows what they're supposed to do on the pitch, and of course that's essential. And he thinks that's what's going on at the moment, and I have to concur because Bayern are underperforming. They have a lot of competitiveness in them, a lot of players trying to prove themselves to be in that starting 11, so Nagelsmann has his hands full. And as we talked about the World Cup, just putting that back in the equation is going to make that more difficult for Nagelsmann as well. So I think that just gives more hope to the other teams looking to dethrone Bayern Munich.
Bayern, as you mentioned, might have the upper hand given Leverkusen's record, but the match day is indeed filled with competitive fixtures.
Yeah, Union Berlin, they're still undefeated, going strong. I really like Union Berlin. They're a miracle story. They have a dynamic duo. I've mentioned them many times before in Sabachu and Becker. And they've combined, for the most offense in the Bundesliga. And Becker leads the Bundesliga in goals with 6, between the posts. And they have to go to Frankfurt. Now, their 2 most recent times they played Frankfurt, who are 7th in the standings. Frankfurt are obviously doing well as well. Union Berlin lost those matches, but Union Berlin have quite the momentum behind them, and I don't know if Frankfurt will be enough to hand Union Berlin their first defeat. That's a really interesting fixture. Another one I want to mention, Freiburg sit at number 3. Freiburg is a club that's always, been a viable club in the Bundesliga. They just, never got it done down the stretch of the season, but right now they're doing well. They're 3rd. And they face Mainz, and these sides match up very well. A draw is my expectation. A couple of years ago, it was a lopsided result, but all in all, that's a pretty balanced fixture. And Dortmund is at Cologne. Dortmund, they're number 2. Dortmund are flying high, and recent reports say they're interested in Naby Keita. I'd love it if he joined Dortmund, because he could be a difference maker if that indeed is done when his contract is over at Liverpool. But Dortmund at Cologne is always interesting because, that's gone back and forth in the past. So there's a lot of exciting football to look forward to in the Bundesliga.
Just like always, Chris, what else has hit your radar?
Yeah, something did. It's off the pitch, actually. The Ballon d'Or organizers are adding a humanitarian prize to this year's ceremony, named for Socrates, the Brazilian midfielder. And he also held a medical degree. The prize will identify the best social initiative by committed champions, stated by, the award givers of the Ballon d'Or. And I think it's just a great thing, because it just puts a focus on how important footballers can be when you look at the environment, you look at social integration, victims of conflict, and so on. And we'll see the first one who wins that award October 17th. So I'm interested to see who will win it, and I'm sure that'll motivate other football players to possibly follow in the footsteps and make change, with the big following they've already had because of their prowess on the pitch.
Thank you very much for the Bundesliga update, Mr. Chris Harrington from our partner station Deutsche Welle in Berlin, Germany. Have a fantastic day further.
Danke und auf Wiedersehen.
The Bundesliga Connection is a team effort driven by the following incredible individuals. The show is hosted by Aidan Hewitt and Chris Harrington. It is produced by Chris Harrington. It is edited by Aidan Hewitt and Uli Presch, and graphics are provided by David Scullard.